said the same thing then 1 year ago that we're saying now. We know the dams are in pretty good shape. They're not going to fall down, and they're so fragile they're going to fall down in a quake and kill everybody. And so, if you need to do something to look at a hypothetical flood event, we need to take our time and we need to find out how they would react should such an event ever occur. Decisions such as these should not be made by the general public, nor at a city council meeting. They need to be made in a proper format by a committee designated for this task, a committee with proper oversight for the council and the public. That's the proper way to make a decision, important decision. And what we're seeing, once again, are further attempts to force decisions via threats and intimidation of council and the public in the rush to spend millions. We've been there, we've done that, and it's a very, very tiresome deal. It's an effort to prove that we need to push ahead because of different reasons, and I will list some of them. People are tired of hearing about the Colliery Dam, and but I say that's a very, very poor reason to spend millions and destroy some of the park without some certainty that it's necessary. That we can't leave it for one more winter, that's just too much. Well, I say, so we've got 105 years behind us, a very admirable performance. We've never had a problem, and we're talking about a hypothetical storm, and it's not happened since the beginning of time. And there's nothing on record to show how it would impact the dams should this event ever occur. That there's an order by the province, this is the kicker, an order by the province, it's in place. These are the same people who blindly accepted the most outrageous studies, saying that they were the worst dams in BC. And now they're ordering immediate compliance, and they propose to say, make a decision right now, and they're saying a plan that isn't even realistic. There has to be a reality check here. You know, staff said, September 18, 2014, given the required time that the requested for studies, it's very unlikely remediation work to be undertaken as planned in the summer of 2015. That was almost a year ago they said that. We have to make a decision right now. Staff report to council, February 2. Selection and remediation options need to take place early in 2015. Otherwise, we can't get the work done this summer. And now they're saying they have to make a decision right now. We have a proposal. This council, the majority of this council made a proposal, and it was a logical proposal, and it's achievable, and it's amazing. I find it amazing that it wasn't unanimously supported by our city council. Amazing that the DSS would say no. And we wonder, and people wonder why that people are skeptical of the intentions. We are tired of the charade of the Colliery Dams being posed as an incredible emergency. They aren't now, and they never have been. And as one person I met the other day said about how polite was losing the park to be part of the solution and not compound the problem. Our faith, our trust that our city is being led in a reputable fashion is once again being seriously challenged. This park is only one issue, but it sets an important precedent at how other more important decisions are made. This is a democratic process in place whereby the majority of the council are to be supported. They are to be supported and not undermined. We beseech you to get it right this time around and set a proper direction for this situation and for the rest of all the important decisions that will come to play.
Okay, thank you very much. Still in my mind, member of the technical committee. I'm just going to speak to the process that we're at today. Just want to make some comments. The affidavits signed by Scott Morgan. I just want to mention a few things in regards to these affidavits which have gone before the government. In his affidavit, he does not mention a lot of the emails that went back and forth with himself and the city staff in regards to the situation with the park. He also shared many things with the city staff that were in emails corresponding from other discussions that he had with members of our committee. I want to acknowledge in his affidavit that he does acknowledge a 2002 water management consultant's report. I want to also say that in his report he estimates 30 to 60 people as a casualty and $40 million to $46 million in lost damages. On August 9, 2013, he emailed Bill Sims in response to his position on the dams, the government's position on the dams and what needs to be taking place. Then I'd like to comment on the email that was sent in regards to our committee trying to get information from the dam safety branch. And I won't read the whole thing, but I'll just refer to the language. In talking with Lauren, I believe his next angle might be to look at closer at the inundation study. So I use the word angle. I'd like to also say in our committee meetings, on March 4th, 2014, we had a meeting and they referred to the U.S. FEMA new guidelines that were coming out in our discussions. And in that meeting, I'll read from the manual, from the minutes. Golder held up a document of the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency manual on overtopping approaches and advised that it would be published soon, but did not share the draft document with us. So we have the document we will share. DSS advised that the overtopping approach has never been undertaken in BC, and therefore an expert opinion would not most likely be required to authorization. So the GSI situation that we've been talking about for a long period of time, really at that point in time probably was something that was going to be up a difficult hill. I wish at the time that they had extrapolated on that FEMA manual, because we could have had more discussions around overtopping, and maybe GSI would have been a preferred installation. In regards to the affidavit of Robert McLean, in his affidavit, he states that $5.3 to $8.3 million of damages. So we have one saying 40 to 46 million in an affidavit from the government, and another person saying that 5.3 to 8.3 million dollars is what he's saying. I want to mention that in his affidavit, he does confirm, I did not do an in-depth analysis of whether each of the conclusions in the reports are connected or correct. So he didn't actually read anything. The city of Nanaimo had a couple of RFPs out. And the question I had for the city, June 1st, 2010, we asked for an RFP on the hydraulic analysis and improvements consulting engineer services. Did we ever get this report? Was this ever done? Mr. Swigley, was this ever done?
Your Worship, I don't have the answer. If we did an RFP and we did the work, we would have the report.
Okay, this is an FRP that city put out back in 2010. And in the RFP, this is something that the city requested that we be part of the RFP if we were going to bid the process of this RFP. And this is from the city, and this is from Scott Pamminger. At the Canadian Dam Association's 2009 annual conference, a forum initiated discussion on the impractical use of the PMF for some of the spillway designs, arguing that further study should be done in this regard. As a result, a task force is being assembled by the Canadian Dam Association to attempt how best to address this significant issue. The city's view is that solutions should be realistically appropriate and include some risk-based tolerance input. That's a request that we put in an RFP. So we already established what we wanted to get. I'm not going to bore you anymore because I'm going to yell. So here's why I'm here today. December 17, 2002, Water Management Consultants. Can I finish, sir? This is very important.
Come on.
I want to read from this report, Chaser River Dams, Phase 1 of Incremental Damage Assessment. This was a report given to the city that they requested. And from the report, I'm going to read this. This was done by Water Management Consultants. At the Lower Chase Dam, the combined PMF and flow from upstream dam breaches will overtop the right abutment about 140 cubic meters a second, overtops the right abutment, but is then contained by a gully, not shown on the city Nanaimo contour map, and re-enters the chaser just below the dam. So in this report, it establishes that the spillway will overtop itself on the right abutment at 140 cubic meters a second. A while later, in another report, they revert back to 35 cubic meters a second. So there's a conflicting report here. And what I'm addressing council is, we've had so many conflicting issues. I have read all this stuff, hours and hours and hours I put into this, because that's what I know. That alone Mayor and Council, is established. It says it right here, 140 cubic meters a second, in a report that the city of Nanaimo has, that will overtop the height above. We've already established that we need 143.
I have to get you to wrap pretty quickly.
This is the report. What I'm saying, sir, is that we established in the report that it will overtop on the right above it at 140 cubic meters a second. We're arguing all the time that the spillway is undersized. We need to take notice on this. We need to take action on this because this is a report we paid for. These people paid for this report. If this report is flawed, then what I'm saying is we need an audit of this entire process because one time I read something and then I can see another confliction, but this one to me is the most important one of all because we have been trying to achieve 143 cubic meters a second. This report says it will do it at 140.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. See no questions?
Really are. I took the time to review the Golder hydraulic assessment on your website and find nowhere in that report where there's anything that says where the distribution of water goes in a flood event. How can we do auxiliary spillway if we do not know these numbers? Can the concrete wall survive side flood? Is the concrete strong enough? What are the dimensions and geometry of the concrete wall? Will the concrete fracture the road? We don't know. We've never done the study. We have no idea about how the wall of the dam will react. If the concrete wall will not survive, what do we do about it? Do we need more rock to support it? How much water will flow over the dam in the time flood? What is the lateral dissipation of the water once the spillway reaches capacity? Again, we just don't know the answers to these questions. When we have these answers, then we can determine what upgrades we need. Do we need to support the dam wall? Do we need to protect it from overtopping? Or can we redirect the water to a different place? What is the real story? What happens to Nanaimo in the hypothetical 34,000 year flood? Well, we should know for sure this happens over time. This is not an instant event, it's days. So by then, the evacuation of downstream will have occurred before the dam crests. Flood damage throughout Nanaimo has occurred. Possible dam failure damage is incremental to widespread existing flood damage. The city maintains that the risk remains severe from this 34,000-year flood event. We have a risk assessment done by Golder that says that's just not the case. We do not know what will happen. This has never happened before. Anything is pure speculation. What we need to know, we have spent $3 million and we still do not know the dimensions of the dam. Is the concrete strong enough to resist erosion? Will it fail if overtopped? The technical information regarding the spillway capacity. What's next? We know for sure that there is absolutely no urgency. We have insufficient data on record to support proposed options. Water levels have never exceeded half the measuring norm. It is important to maintain realistic surveillance and emergency planning, and in the meantime, compile data to find out what is the best solution. Basic requirements. Spillway measurements over a high rainfall season. That means in the winter. Dam dimensions and makeup of the concrete and buttressing, rock buttressing. We need to know these things. DDS has a history of accepting flawed studies. We all recall we were going to have 150 people die and cars would float through John Marsby School. This time, let's do it right. Let's defy disorder and stand up for what is right.
A chance to read the full report over the weekend. I would like a chance to read that as well as peruse some of the other reports. And attached to that motion, I would also like to add that we make no other decisions tonight other than to accept the report.
So for the benefit of council, I think it might be a wee bit premature. Can you hold on to that motion, please? Because.
No, I just made that motion.
Okay, so go ahead, repeat it, please.
Okay. Did you guys get part of that? I'll fill it in.
I think I read your worship. If I understand correctly, is to receive the report on the addendum and make no other decisions tonight about the Colliery dams.
That'll work.
It's all one motion.
No, it's two. It's one is to receive the report, the other is to make no decisions. I'd like those voted on
Okay,
separately.
Sarah Young. Can we go to secretary? Seconded by Councillor Hall. Okay, speakers. Wish to speak to your motion? Okay, Councillor Kemp.
Well, if this is a motion now, we're just speaking on the motion. It's the first one. I'm receiving, okay, I don't speak.
Okay. Any other speakers on receiving the report? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second part. Councillor Kemp.
I'd like to speak to the information that was put in front of us on the floor tonight. So the motion to me, can we still speak about the information we heard tonight? Or through the staff? Can we still speak about the information? Questions to the engineers or anything? Well, this motion is like that.
Wish to speak to the motion. Wish to speak to the motion?
Well, this is that we don't, the motion now is that we don't make any decision tonight. Well, I wanted to speak to the information heard tonight and to some of the reports. So with that motion,
Unfortunately, the motion's been moved and seconded.
can we table that motion until we speak to some of the stuff we heard? Yeah,
Actually, I don't have a problem with tabling it and speaking about some of the other stuff we've heard, because that was all part of what I want to do, is have a chance to read this, have a chance to get the report that Mr. Cake brought forward, and other information as well. I know I've read a lot of stuff, and I need more time.
So there's a motion to table. You want to say something, Mr. Farrell? Okay. Call a question on tabling. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so, next item.
I'd like to speak to some of the information that I've heard tonight, and I'd like to maybe go through some questions. What I've heard from all the speakers tonight is about process. My mic? No? Okay. What I've heard tonight is about concerns with inconsistency in process. I know from my own point of view, I've asked questions about the size of the watershed. When I studied it, it was told to me 30 square kilometers, 21 in some reports, and 19. This 2002 water management consultant's point is a concern to me. Because going through this report, it talks about that the lower Chasing Dam combined PMF and flow from upstream dam breaches will overtop the right abutment. About 140 cubic meters per second overtops the right abutment, but is then contained by a gully, not shown on the City of Nanaimo contour maps, and re-enters the Chase River just below the dam in 2002. If I now can ask a question through to the consultant, I believe it was the July 25th, 2014, the breach analysis, hydrology and hydraulics. Can one of the reports, other report, the important information limitations of the report on basis and use of the report. The report has been prepared for specific site design, objective, development, and purpose described to Golder by the client. Does Golder have the ability to design, answer me what those questions and what the specific design purposes were at this point?
Sorry, can you restate that question?
Well, maybe I should do it. What it is, in your report, from the introduction, it says, the purpose of it, the Colliery Dam mandate, technically mandate, was to identify an environmentally, minimally invasive, cost and time-effective remediation solution. So that's in the introduction. And then in the important information and limitations of the report, the second section, past standard of care, is basis and use of the report. The first piece in that, first sentence, the report has been prepared for a specific site, design objective, development and purpose described to Golder by the client. Do you have the ability to tell me the design objective and the purpose described by the client, which would be the city of Nanaimo?
Yeah, I think that's a standard set of limitations that's gone to the back of that report, and the client was the city of Nanaimo, but we were working as an advisor to the technical committee and working in cooperation with the technical committee.
Okay, so that answers and goes to the introduction, that the identifying the most environmentally, minimally invasive, cost and time-effective remediation. So that was your further in that, in your executive summary, the analysis will move forward using the best and most applicable data for watersheds as follows. Historic flow data for the Chase River is not available. However, they did use some close proximity stations, but gauging stations and elevation different, but nothing's been recorded for that watershed, has it? There was no real records of the watershed flow right now. So, further to that, this is interesting, with the statement from 2002 that Mr. Cake has provided, it's an interesting one for me, and this is a question to the staff. The staff remember when I had my concerns with the size of the spillway, and that staff had originally said it was 35 cubic meters per second, and I said, well, there's a report that says it's up to 55 cubic meters per second. But if I stick with the 35 cubic meters per second of that spillway, and I address this in the 2002 report that says 140 cubic meter capability at overtop, then, and with no record of this ever overtopping, then that spillway is actually at 35 to 140 cubic meters per second. What I'm trying to point out here is the inconsistency in the data, Your Worship. Yeah. Affidavits by Mr. Morgan from the Dam Safety Branch talking about massive damage and 30 to 60 deaths. We know that's not true now. Yeah. Mr. Ronald McLean also talking about different damages. When I go through the report from Golder on the 2014 risk assessment, it's still using the maximum precipitation and a mixed-in event of seismic in some of it. And I want to ask a question to the engineer who's done the spillway design. What would these two designs that are on the option table now do for the flood downstream? Any mitigation by either of these, other than an apparent collapse under a 2/3 of 35,000 year study, and that PMF, which we've heard from the FEMA report, most currently on the table now at DSS, that the PMF is not a good methodology anymore. So, can you answer that?
Yes, I hope so.
These things are, there's so much inconsistency. Staff went to Northwest Hydraulics in Vancouver, I think you attended with them, and they asked about modeling.
I did not.
Well, I thought you went that same one. So how do I deal with these inconsistencies? How do I deal with the FEMA report related? And can staff explain to me here in open why the HRVA was delayed from finished in July or August? Staff said they had it in November. Why was it delayed? When I look at all the information I put together, like waving paper in my thing, it ties directly to that type of HR. So can staff tell me, give me the reason again why the HRVA was held up?
So, Your Worship, going back to the first question too, I don't think there is a change in the flows post and pre fixing the spillway that we would have to deal with downstream. They're the same. So the flood issue is the same regardless. The liability issue is purely about dam safety requirement that the dams be to a certain standard and the spillway is under capacity.
But if I can, but if the information is confusing from 2002 onward.
Well, Your Worship, to have a member of the public or a council member just pull out one number out of the report from 2002, of course it's going to be confusing because there's no context, there's no report. Older likely probably doesn't even know what we're talking about. But what I mean by the context, when you say over the right abutment, I don't know what that means. If that's the height of the right spillway, that might actually be correct. I don't know. But it would,
So we don't know.
it would,
So we don't know
it
something.
would clearly be overtopping the dam at that point if it was up to the top of the right spillway, which would be a problem, and that's what everyone's been identifying, is that the spillway doesn't have capacity. So I just don't know how to answer that. We can certainly pull out that report and have Boulder look at it and provide you some feedback. Your Worship, at the HRBA, I do apologize to Councillor Kipp publicly and to Council. It was delayed coming. And I understand how Councillor Kipp can feel that that may have assisted with his how you may argue this case. And because I understand that concern, and because I know I didn't hold this back, I asked the lawyer to have a look at it and ask me if it would have impacted our case, and you identified that clearly it wouldn't, because...
Excuse me, did he ever ask me what I thought was the difference of how it would affect my case? He made a random decision on something. I said, this is crazy. For me, I mean, the lawyer made an opinion on a hazard load risk assessment without asking me what my concerns were about it. That's concerning too. As a counselor, I'm asking questions. And it's like I get an answer from somebody who doesn't even ask me what my question is. It's concerning.
I certainly might have misspoken. I wasn't asking the lawyer whether it impacted Councillor Kipp's feelings on what the case would be. I asked the lawyer whether it would impact legally and technically on the case that we were putting forward. He didn't think it would. Because the report was dealing with all of our dams, it was broad-based. It wasn't dealing specifically with our Colliery dams. And most importantly, we have an order from the comptroller, so it's irrelevant to the fact that we have an order from the comptroller to comply.
Interesting when I say yes, the HRBA is an overall community view of all of our risks, all 22 of them. And interesting, we took volcanic ash out now, that if you had ash falling blue sky, this is a bit of a risk. But we had 9 dams as a general statement, and the general statement said that it comes back with a very improbable possibility. And it had a death rating of severe, or maybe not even severe. And then when you take the specific data to the Colliery Dam that says there's no death, it should in fact impact, because now the death is even in the low category, giving your subjective calculation an even lesser value. And that was one of my concerns, where the DSS could have used that. And in my presentation to Council and DSS, I could have put, here is our independent risk assessment that backs me up. And that was my point. So thank you very much. That's enough for me. Thank you.
Boulder here, the purpose of having this discussion without having a motion on the floor is so that we can ask questions of the representative from Boulder. So I would suggest we either ask questions of the representative from Boulder or we get a motion on the floor. So, next speaker, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. Thank you to the speakers that came to the podium and for your perseverance and persistence. My question to you, sir, is our watershed capacity and the amount of scientific data that's been produced to define how much snow and or rainfall, atmospheric condition, would be required over a certain period of time, whatever that is, to fill up those dams and beyond, to cause potential breaching of the lower dam. Do you have that information?
So the data that's available, the question is how much data is available or how long is it?
How much data?
Okay, we really like quiet in the gallery, please. We're trying to listen to the answers to the questions that are being asked. Thank you.
How much data has Golder produced to support how much precipitation in the watershed, including snowfall, including melt, would be warranted and or required to fill up those dams to levels of flood conditions? Do you have that, did you produce that information?
I didn't carry out that work myself. I'm not a hydrology engineer, but the hydrologist that carried out the assessment used all of the available information from various sources. If you look at the report that Councillor Kipp referred to, you can see all the information when the calculation of rainfall and runoff. It considers things like soil conditions, the steepness of the watershed, the amount of rainfall, all the nearby monitoring stations and whatnot. Through that process, to calculate what the floods are. I can't go through it in detail, but it is in the report.
Thank you. So in the last century, with the amount of rainfall that we've experienced, with the amount of snowpack that we've experienced, with the amount of runoff that we've experienced from our watershed that makes its way into the dams, we have never had an overtopping. Now, under the atmospheric conditions, moving forward in a 34,000-year event, we are making assumptions that we may, in the next 23,000 years, have a situation where enough water will fill up those two dams and breach. Something that we haven't had happen in a century.
My understanding is that there's a possibility, there's some information to suggest that the dams have breached. The middle dam had overtopped at one time.
Where?
Quiet.
Where is this info?
So, Your Worship, I feel for our consultant because this is not a normal thing for him to experience, but that's our understanding as staff, that they have overtopped. There's evidence and discussion that has happened. But regardless, what the expert that provided Golder the information to do the design on indicated was all the factors that they can come up with for flows from the watershed indicate that this is the size of spillway that you have to design for.
Thank you. So just to follow up, so when I learned that our existing spillway can cope and handle with up to 139 square meters per second, because at 140 it will overtop on the right above them. And it seems to suggest to me that the spillway has worked satisfactorily. We, as a third option, council, when you speak to the middle dam overtopping, perhaps it has. I'm not suggesting that it hasn't. We spoke to dealing with the middle dam first and providing an overtopping solution, which would have satisfied the middle dam, which the DSS has indicated that some work needs to be done there in the secondary phase, if you will. That might not be in context. What we propose to do was to deal with the middle dam first and solve the overtopping condition that exists or potentially exists there, while we continue to do more research and study on what may be required over the course of the next 12 months and work towards a solution by 2017. So I think quite simply, when we have two options here, both are invasive and both are expensive, and we speak to one being least expensive, at least invasive, well, of course, one will be, but it still isn't the best solution. So from my perspective, I would like to deal with the middle first, as we have proposed some weeks ago, which gives us time to provide the information that is necessary for the watershed capacity. And then if we can deal with the lower, in the secondary phase, if you will.
Your worship, might be a good opportunity for our consultant to talk about that, because Golder is the firm that actually proposed the risk assessment and convinced the province based on doing the lower dam first, and potentially, in Golder's opinion, not doing anything in the middle, so we wouldn't have to spend any money on our middle dam. And the order actually reflects that. The province bought into that. The province said remediate the lower dam. By 2017, we'll determine whether you have to actually remediate the middle dam. So there's a huge cost savings to that approach that Golder was putting forward by not doing anything to the middle dam. And Golder can add to this, but the issue is more concerning that we deal with the spillway of the lower dam as part of their risk assessment. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, whether there would be any way to actually do the middle dam and not do the lower dam, in your opinion, or how do you see that unfolding?
I think that was discussed through the technical committee meetings, that the lower dam was the key. It's the, it is the last dam prior to the residential area, so it's the, certainly you can get more bang for your buck, I guess, by remediating the lower dam. It's the last line of defense. It's the hard consequence dam. I think what Swaby may be referring to is the use of the risk assessment, and how the dam safety section is ruled on how the risk assessment will be applied to the project. Is that the risk assessment can be used to, the dam is still required to be classified, so you still have to come up with consequence classification of both the dams, which is done. And the risk assessment can be applied to look at variations from the hazard levels associated with those consequence classifications. So when you classify a dam, it carries with it certain hazard levels. So we've heard about the 34,000 PMF floods, the 1,000-year floods, and whatnot. Those are hazard levels. How dam safety views the risk assessment to be used is it can inform how those hazards are applied for given consequence dam. In other words, the consequence classification, in other words, you can relax the hazard level. Is how, well, it's not actually worded that way. That is how I think it's intended to be applied. That's how it will be applied to the remediate the lower dam, you look at the middle dam, look at the risks, and decide what's appropriate. That hasn't been discussed in detail. That's, I guess, how I perceive it being done. So that's why the lower dam is most important, and why the middle dam would be treated separately.
Thank you. I completely understand that logic. I also understand that the middle dam, if mitigated, would benefit the overall impact of a catastrophic event in the middle and or lower, and would give us the time so that we're not capitulating from what our responsibilities are to the community and citizens to be doing, and we seem to be doing something that is responsible economically and environmentally. It can be done by November of this year. And then, while we have undertaken that work, to what I understand to be in the neighborhood of $700,000 to $1 million, thereabouts, then while that is going on, in concert with that, we can deal with what might be a lesser invasive, less expensive option for the lower dam. And given the fact that we survived a century, I don't believe that there is an imminent danger, personally, and I guess it doesn't matter what I think, to the downstream residents. Because we've been informed that there is no loss of life in the event of a seismic event? None. The inundation zones have been altered immensely. The volume of water in the dams have been altered immensely from the first reports that we had. So from my perspective, we may be able to save some money by doing the lower dam and not having to do anything to the middle, which we haven't been told. We don't have to do anything to the middle, just that we may not have to. I would suggest that we will have to, because that will be the same as our other 8 dams that we have, that we're going to have to do something to them too. And this one will not be exempt, the middle that is, from some form of work being done there. So I prefer to do it now, reverse the system, and take the next 12 to 16 months that we so desperately need, and to show the confidence in our community and with the province that we are doing something, and we are taking this seriously, to add to the $3+ million we've already spent. Thank you.
Councilor Fuller.
Okay, somewhere earlier on I heard that there is evidence of the dam's overtopping. I would like to know where that evidence is, and if there's no concrete evidence, then I would hope that we would quit saying that there is evidence, especially if you can't provide the evidence for it.
Okay. Can I ask the gentleman from Boulder again for clarification? This has nothing to do with, well, the order that we're under right now has nothing to do with whether there was, whether there wasn't, whether there will, whether there won't. This has everything to do with the risk factor. And that is, if you have a dam of this classification, you must build it to this standard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Councilor Kidd.
Boy, that couldn't have led any better. Risk assessment, Mr. Downing, appreciate it. Throughout your risk assessment 2014, I'm not certain what your part is, because it was Bill Rivera that did that. I certainly worked with him on it. From my perspective, the objectives were always the same within that risk assessment, and it says that we do not have any overtopping analysis for either dam from previous studies as input on dam failure. Seismic load says we have performance of each dam for several PGA values, which is earthquake values and new one, but still no information. We need performance at several PGAs of each dam. So with also in your report, and it says a lot of it in both this seismic risk and your report, that a lot of information is taken from the previous reports and previous reports. My suggestion is that some of that is very hand-picked. You said in your report that you ran out of money and needed to complete more reports. It's in your study, one of the statements. Is that because it says, like I say, let me see here, one's trying to suggest one here that has a different statement. Again, we do not have only overtopping breaches for the lower dam release with a magnitude flow rate, and then the combination failure with no middle dam failure, middle dam overtopping, middle dam seismic failure, and middle dam failure from other causes, by piping, say, for example. But there's no dams that the depth risk is way down, and we're still going at this with a fever during a drought time. We're pushing a flood event. And withholding reports, PNF, would we not typically, as from an engineering point, would you not establish flow first and then go to the tipping point of a higher maximum? Yep. Would you not establish flow? I mean, the only thing I have, the only flow I've ever seen was from a January meeting of staff where they talked about the removal of the #1 reservoir, and they said they monitored for 5 years and the flow was 33 cubic meters per second. That's the only time I've ever seen anybody say that they monitored flow. And of course that was before the report that said there was 150 deaths and everything, and then that was 150 deaths was already in that meeting. So is it not typical for engineers to establish the flow first?
The flow in the spillway?
Or the flow in the watershed. The flow in the watershed.
That's what we did. That's the hydraulics and hydrology.
What study did you study that, and what years did you study the hydraulic control?
That's the report they referred to, the July report called Hydraulics and Hydrology, and that was all studied between January and July of last year.
But it was done not with information from the watershed, but information from other watersheds.
That's available information.
The best of it, so there really is not. He was asked to perform a certain duty. That's part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, this goes to the PMF flow rate and all that. And I was just looking at the order that was given to us, and one of the things that popped out to me was, whereas Boulder calculated the existing flood routing capacity of lower dam to be 55.0 cubic meters per second, equivalent to a 1 in 25-year flood event. So that, to me, that means we should have had at least four events now, and yet we can't find evidence of one. Again, thanks.
So I see no further speakers. There is no motion on the floor. Councilor Collin.
Motion to bring the motion that was on the floor and table off.
Motion to lift off the table?
Yeah.
Okay. Second. Councilor Hall, thank you. Okay. Can we have a motion, please?
You need to have a vote on it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All those in favor? All those carried.
So there is now we're back in the motion saying that no other direction, discussions or decisions from council tonight about the Colliery dams.
Seems pretty straightforward. Thank you. We have two speakers. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to know from staff what our time frame is if we delay making a decision today.
Well, Your Worship, ideally, and the reason that we brought it forward to this meeting that was because we need to get on with the remediation now. We need direction from council to meet the deadline of the 24th, which is the comptroller's deadline, but also the deadline of constructing anything this year. We ultimately need as much time as possible. So I would look for direction from council if this motion passes when you would like to come back, or if you intend on bringing it back before the 24th, so that we know what we're doing.
Councillor Kipp.
From my perspective, having received again the 90 pages, having to ask the engineer for the first time directly some questions. This is not a regular council meeting, it's not televised. I would suggest we hold any decision until this council has time to listen to the information or read the information and make this decision in front of a regular council meeting with a televised audience. We've always said is such an important thing for our decision. We actually never changed going to Thursday because Shaw was so important to our decisions.
Yes.
So I'm saying most important, let's make our decision in front of the public next Monday. We got a recall.
So you're suggesting an amendment to the motion? Okay, leave it at that. Councillor Thorpe.
I think I will speak against the motion, although I agree with Councillor Kipp that it is important that this be debated, I think, and on television as well, and I have no problem at all with that. I just am concerned about our timelines. One thing that has come across very clear this evening is that there's a lot of concerns in the community, and I really do appreciate that, and probably have more sympathy with that than some people might think. However, one thing that was virtually not acknowledged tonight is the fact that we are under orders from the provincial government. Whether we we do have deadlines that they are requiring us to meet. And if we don't, and if we keep delaying and keep delaying, I just fear that we could be setting ourselves up for failure in the sense that they might take choices away from us. So I think the sooner we can make choices and debate and make a decision, the better.
Let them try.
Ladies and gentlemen, the speaker has a right to speak unfettered. Please. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Working? Oh, there it goes. Thank you. I agree with Councillor Thorpe. This is just getting beyond ridiculous in terms of the amount of time we're spinning our wheels, the amount of money we're spending and plan on spending to continue to spin our wheels at a time when we are under order from the province. And I don't take that lightly as an elected official. And I think we need to get on with this. And I think we do need to make decisions. We are under very tight timelines. And there are people on this council who wish to defy and to say, no, we're not going to do anything. I am not one of them. And I will be voting against this motion.
Councillor Bestford. I'm sorry, Councillor Fuller was first. Councillor Fuller.
That's okay, I'm willing to not speak again.
Your worship, could I clarify something? I just wanted to remind council that the order was unique this time. There were the dates that were amended require both the design report and the choice be provided for the 24th. That's primarily back to we need time. So the decision tonight is imperative if we're going to have a design done and a decision made for the 24th. I just don't see us being able to complete it.
Councillor Bestford.
Thank you. Just to be sure and to clarify, I am not in favor of doing nothing, although I am one of those councillors who believe that we can do something else or something different. And I've been advocating for that for several years now. And in fact, voted opposed to the renaturalization some 3 years ago, and have changed that and been now willing to do something because I didn't think anything needed to be done. I still don't think anything needs to be done, but I'm willing to compromise and be a team player and invest in making the dams safe for those that live beneath and downstream while we retain its historic value and serenity and natural preserve. There's literally a biology center there. It's literally a recreation center. You don't see us investing millions of dollars in infrastructure and facilities for that corner of the city of Nanaimo. And therefore, I think it's absolutely imperative that we retain the recreational pasture that it is, has been, and always will be for another century, and should stay that way. With that said, when we speak to timelines, we've been told for months that if we don't make a decision months ago, we won't reach the timelines. We don't have all of the design work and drawings, and we can't. It's nobody's fault because we haven't made a decision on which one. It's not possible for us to get this work done by November, in my opinion. But it is possible for us to get the middle dam done. Always has been, always could have been, still is. If we want to do something that mitigates the damages and the danger to humans and otherwise property, we can overtop the middle dam successfully in a time frame. Contrary to what might be popular belief, we can't get the work done on the lower dam complete. Again, in my opinion, that's why I believe we need the time. That's why I will be supporting the motion that's on the floor.
Councilor Brennan.
The motion on the floor is to not make a decision tonight. So that's what I'm speaking to. We've already delayed this decision for, I think, at least a week. We tried to hold a meeting, but that failed through lack of quorum, but that was the item on the agenda. I think there's no doubt that the people of Nanaimo have great affection for this park and the dams. But we're now in a position where we have delayed so long in making any decision that the controller has issued an order that the work be done. And we knew that was coming. We knew from day one when this first showed up on our desk that the controller could and probably would make an order if we continue to delay. And the controller has been involved in this for a long time, intimately. The controller has reiterated that the work must be completed by mid-November, and he's made it clear that the city, that should the city fail to take the approved measures to ameliorate the problem, the controller will take enforcement action against the city. I mean, it's not as though the controller hasn't done exactly what the controller said he would do. He said he would do an order. He did an order. He says he's going to take enforcement action. He's going to take enforcement action. And it's bad practice, I think, bad public policy to ignore this. And you know, the rumbling of the crowd does nothing to dissuade me from thinking that we need to attend to this business now. And in fact, it never has. It never has. I know that! Exactly. As your employer, I know that. So I feel I act with integrity. I tell you what's insulting me. The guy who goes,
Excuse me.
One girl! Not one girl! So.
Where's taxpayers' money gone?
So.
Not for the hospital, just for the dam.
Okay. So there we go.
Hey,
So,
thank you.
I mean, I am trying to behave with some sort of professionalism, and I'll try and continue. So,
We'd like to hear all the speakers, please. I didn't hear anybody up here booing, heckling any of the delegates.
I heard you. I heard you.
Speaking, she's on her iPad the whole time. The people
I didn't hear anybody now.
I heard you interrupt the meeting.
She does
Councilor Brennan.
someone else is speaking. Diane Brennan's on her iPad the whole time.
Councilor Brennan.
so the controller has said he will take action against us, and such action includes the levying of fines, and or the contract to work out himself and build the city. That's the bad news. That's the bad news. But the good news is that the remediation work can be done without touching your dams. And my understanding of this from the beginning was that the dams were the important piece here. A spillway option exists, and it's less intrusive and less costly than any work on the dams.
For the council members that are suggesting that doing nothing was ever implied, doing nothing has never been implied from myself, or I believe anyone at this table in support of those motions. So doing nothing was never ever stated. We have some great solutions, some great options in my belief. And also, not once has those motions ever implied delaying anything. I want to be crystal clear of that as well. So those are two myths that seem to be getting lost in translation in this conversation. So there is never been always implied delay or myth. I agree with Councilor Bessick. Do I think we need anything in this crisis of water, etc.? Absolutely not. It's ludicrous we've been having this conversation. But nevertheless, We've never implied doing nothing, and also never implied delaying. Am I repetitive? Absolutely, because I'm repetitively hearing those other two comments. So I'll be crystal clear on that. So, so where we go from here is, I hear some comments. We've had too much information. We've had this information for far too long. We haven't actually, frankly, had full-on conversations on this, and we've only been here 6-7 months, some of us. So I also want to apply that. So I look forward to Councillor Kip's suggestion of meeting, reading this week, etc. Having conversing with the gentleman over the corner for the first time. And I should have asked this sooner. With the proper question here, sir. I'm Bill. Did we get your name? Bruce Downing. Hey Bruce, nice to meet you. How you mentioned earlier, it's in one of these million reports. How do we get the risk assessment lowered? Because I heard you in the conversation, and I'm not being adverse, I just want to have the dialogue here. To get an assessment lowered, what do we have to do?
I think you mean the hazard level lowered? That's what I was referring to.
Yes.
In the discussion. So the idea was that you look at the way that the dam safety section had presented this in their email, is that the risk assessment can be used to reduce the hazard level. So in other words, if the risks of if you do a comparative risk assessment, you find out the risk between a 1,000-year hazard level or a 1,000-year plus 1/3 PMF are similar, then that's sort of an argument that can be used to make the case for lowering the hazard level. So that's sort of a discussion where you can try and get a relaxation on the criteria, design criteria.
Okay, so thank you. I learned something a little bit. And just to wrap up, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your patience. And I can't believe to do this on the speak this evening. Is in regards to the provincial order, I still believe there should be conversation. There should be space had, because we've told there is no space. We've told them numerous things, and having a real dialogue has created some real conversations. And I'm definitely I will be supporting the motion that's on the table to support it for a week. And at this time, I think there's better options than Boulder A or B. Thank you.
Yeah, to say that people are ignoring things, no one is ignoring anything here. Actually, I think people and many of the councillors are not ignoring. They hear information like the 140 PMF tonight, that if others choose to ignore, then they are the ones that are actually ignoring information. You know, we need to take control, and we have options. Councillor Brennan can laugh all she wants, and that's fine. She doesn't have to chain herself to trees. Trees might not like it, but that's and so, Councillor Foley, you're out of order. And so, so, just so you know, and everybody else in here knows, don't look at me. Councillor Ford, next Monday, I will be making a motion towards forming a select committee and moving forward with options on Middle Dam. That's next Monday, and I will be bringing that forward. This is a notice of motion. Call a question on the motion on the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'll make this brief so we can call a question. I'm a new councillor. I think this is a pretty big topic, not just as the Colliery Dams itself, but as all the dams that we own. And the first time dealing with the comptroller, we have an appeal going. We've told our legal advice that we're not stopping the appeal. There's some information that he could bring forward to us I would like to hear. So I'm not ready to make a decision right now until he brings something forward to me that I think that Ted said that he's going to expect me to do. Yes, with Councillor Fuller's motion. That's it. We'll talk about it next week. Thank you.
Councillor.
Well, I'd like to respond to a couple of things I've heard from a few of my peers, if that's okay. We've heard some new information today that may be in city, that is in city reports, and I know it's in city reports because I've searched through it. So it'd be nice to see the staff take some of that old new information and work with the majority. As far as the signs in Harewood, again, we're based on the catastrophic failure, 150 deaths, 1,800 impact, 2-minute failure. Get over it. That's over. And the signs were an old agreement based on false information. So to say those signs would be as for the meeting I heard of the quorum last week, the week before we asked to have the information from Councillor Fuller put on the agenda. We were told the agenda was too big. And then we got the information on the Monday night agenda. And 3 or 4 councillors were away, 3 councillors were away, and the mayor and the others knew that. And then we had already answered the question while we asked for the special meeting, but the mayor put on the agenda the pictures and moving forward, and tried to make us look like we didn't attend the meeting, and it was sour grapes to me because we had done what we wanted with the special meeting. So get over that one too. That was a prescribed meeting to make some people look bad, and that's a bad form of governance. And the mayor knew there was going to be at least 3 or 4 people. So it was a real badly prescribed meeting. We got the stuff done the Monday before, but it was pushed and pushed. So the quorum is crap. They tried the last election to push this forward on us. The comptroller, not the controller. The Study the stuff, get the staff to put the new information of the 104 capabilities. I'd like to know what Mr. Downey was tasked with for the risk assessment, because it says here, proposed, described by holder, by the client. I'd like that description for what they wrote for them. I haven't seen that. I've asked for it. I've asked for information time and time again. I'm still going through the government. I've still sent out stuff on the flaws, and hopefully, the right people will wear some, I guess, egg in their face on a long-term process on this one. This is a historical moment where we will stand up for our community, or we will just have to bow to some other person in an office in another town. Not my cup of tea. I am not the one. I've said for a long time, we really don't have to do nothing to this. That thing's been there 105 years. Let's work on some of our other 22 disasters that have a far greater risk than this. Political posturing, that's what I'm doing.
Oh my God.
All right, call the question. Pardon me?
You wouldn't agree with me either.
Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion. Motion. There was a motion. Just a second. Mr. Farrar.
The motion is that council make no other decisions regarding the Colliery Dam Park.
Good. All those in favor? Opposed? Record. Councillor Brennan, Mayor McKay, Councillor Thorpe, and Councillor Pratt are opposed.
Occasion, the next Monday is not televised, it's on the webcast. The next meeting that is going to be televised is on July 20th. There is a show, a regular council meeting, which is going to be televised. So next council meeting that you're referring to, Councillor Kipp, July 13th is the committee of the whole meeting.
Well, we've changed some before. Should we make it a regular council meeting? But we wouldn't be televising, would it?
That's correct. I can try. I can try to get it televised, but I cannot speak for sure at this moment.
But at least webcast.
But we can try.
I wanted to see televised.
part of getting the information up to us.
That's next week.
July 13 again is a committee of the whole. I will try my best to get it televised.
And your worship, the other point I was going to make is that we're full steam ahead on the appeal, and the lawyer, as noted tonight, based on no further direction, will be off and running with retaining the expert witnesses in the meeting and start that process.
Yep.